So last class, what did we learn? We went through the introduction part of strategic human resources development and management. We learned about how it is important that human resources have to be strategized, keeping in mind the goals of the organization, because human resources or the workforce or the employees of any organization, they are like a very valuable investment for the company. And it is when the human resources are, trained and strategically, they are there is improvement techniques which is like fed into them, and they are encouraged, and value system is, or value based training is given to them, and the environment among them is peaceful and healthy, how they go on to achieve the goals of the organization, how there is a strategic plan that is developed, how we have learned during the last class the meeting or the marriage between strategic management and human resources management, and we spoke about how vital is human resources of any organization, which actually calls for strategic planning and implementation in the human resources wing of any organization as well. So today we are going to go to the third chapter. We are going to go into the depth, bearing in mind that already the previous, the two chapters you already learned earlier, even with another lecture. I'm reiterating that. But today we're going to go a little bit more deeper into human resources, strategic human resources development. And as part of that, today we are going to learn about corporate culture. Can you tell me what is corporate culture? Have you heard of the term corporate culture before? Okay, so what is corporate culture? Corporate culture is a culture that is developed within an organization. It is a concept which actually gives, importance to the culture that is developed within the organization, the value-based culture. See, in everyone's lives, if you think about it, at a simple level, you would see that we, as an individual, we go by certain values in life. We might have individual values, we might have family values, we may have religious values, community values. Likewise, even the corporate sector has its own values. But the ultimate goal is, like how we have individual values, the ultimate goal is that there is peaceful coexistence. We're at peace with ourselves, we are at peace with the community, with the family, and then we are peaceful to achieve whatever targets individually we have in our own personal lives. Likewise, even at the corporate level, the aim of, a healthy corporate culture, it just doesn't happen just like that. Just as how we live a value-based life, it just doesn't happen just like that. It takes, someone to teach us those values. It takes that as a child, you are trained into that values. Then you go to the schools and colleges, and there you are trained with values. Then you go to your place of worship, wherever, and whatever religion you follow. So there you are trained with certain values of do's and don'ts. That makes you the person that you are, in simple terms. Likewise, even in an organization, it is the values of an organization that gives them the credibility even in the market. Now, when there is a healthy corporate structure or a healthy corporate cultural environment within a structure, then what happens is they are in a better position to contribute towards the organization and gain the goals or achieve the goals of the organization towards even achieving a competitive edge. that cannot really be denied. Because what happens is, just as like in an individual base or family level or community level, just as what happens internally, there is a little bit of seeping out or spilling out of what happens internally even outside. So traditional model was something different. Of course, they had a value-based system, but sometimes, they used to concentrate at the corporate level more about, gaining a competitive edge. Of course, gaining a competitive edge is important. Of course, making profits is important. But what happens now in today's world? Of course, corporate culture always existed, but in today's world, value-based corporate culture has become a kind of a prerogatory, and it has become a kind of a must-have within the organization, because who is the face of any organization? Of course, it is the human resources, the workforce, the employees. Are you understanding? So this is nothing but simple as that, where every organization has to uphold certain value-based system, and the employees within the organization have to be trained in those values so as to peacefully coexist, have a healthy working system within the organization and achieve their goals. And this is going to propel them into, gaining that competitive edge as well as sustaining in the market. Last class, I taught you even about not just making profits or gaining competitive edge, or even, having a stand or, a high rate at the stock market, or, having those high bars at the stock market. But it's also about, sustenance in the market. So this is, what I've spoken to you is on simple terms. I've begun with individual level to it's similar that happens even at a corporate structure. Now, people being an important resource within an organization, I'd like to reiterate that investment into the right people for the right job strategically is very important, and strategic feeding of values, or if there are, any kind of, elements within the organization who are not really, they are not really for peaceful coexistence. So they need to be actually trained, and the matter that is, if there is any chaos, it needs to be nipped in the bud. So this calls for good leadership within the organization. So leadership actually drives values. So this you will not find in your slide. I want you to remember this or make a note of it, because I'm going to search this for your answers. In your answers, sorry, I'm going to search this point, whatever I'm going to make now in your answers. So leadership drives values. Remember this. Good leadership within an organization drives values. This value system, which is their values, it drives the behavioral pattern of the employees, right? Now, this behavior which exists between the organization, it grows, and then collectively it becomes a culture. I want you to repeat this, okay? I'll ask any one of you, because this is important, and I want you to pay attention here. It's not there in your slide, but this point has to be in your answer because it just popped up in my mind now. I'm repeating. Leadership, good leadership is called for in any organization. It is a kind of a key for any healthy organizational culture. So we can put it this way: leadership drives values, and it is those values which are actually leadership, which is driven by values. So there are people in the organization who look at them. So leadership drives values, and it is these values which drives the behavioral pattern of the employees. This behavior, organizational behavior, this behavior within the company, this behavior forms collectively the culture of any organization. And this culture actually drives the performance of the employees and the performance of the employees now finally goes on to achieve the ultimate goals of any organization. Okay, so I hope you have taken down the point that leadership drives values and values drives behavior, and behavioral patterns are developed within the structure of the organization, within the walls of the organization, and then this behavioral pattern moves on to progress collectively as culture within the organization, and the culture within the organization plays a very important role towards even the performance of any employee, and performance as a whole goes on to achieve the goals of any organization. So this is what it is in simple terms. And this is kind of, to set the perspective right for you towards understanding in simple terms what is corporate culture and what is strategic corporate culture. That is, I would say that a good management within any organization would actually pay attention to the culture that is developing, or kind of sometimes even festering when there are certain sour episodes which may take place within the organization, and not just thrust it away and push it on the human resources department, that okay, you take care. Human resource manager, okay, you take care. So this is the problem. Okay, it's your part, you take care. But the top management or any manager, good managers are good leaders. So any manager for that part, it's like everyone within the organization structure should contribute towards this culture development. And even as an individual, we should have this value-based working within us. And how we develop ourselves as the employee of any organization, and then cooperate with the managers being good leaders, they kind of instill values. The higher management just does not push away all these tasks only to the human resource wing of the organization and say, okay, it's your job. They just keep the ball into their court and say it's your job. It doesn't actually it wouldn't really work. This is what I've really observed, even with my own experience for so many years, that it doesn't really work when you just carry the entire stuff and put it on the human resource, because every manager is called to be a good leader. And it is leadership that that drives values. It is those values which actually those values which actually should be reflected in the behavioral pattern of the employees, and the behavior collectively is the culture within the organization. That culture within the organization, it encourages the person or the individuals or employees to perform their best, and then this leads to actually achieving the goals of the organization. So this is it. Now let us go through our slides, having set the perspective. Theoretically, we'll see what is corporate culture. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I don't know. Okay, so today we are going to analyze what should be the strategic moves in a corporate structure. What is actually a good corporate in-house work culture. Now here, corporate culture is a set of, now you see admitting people into the room is kind of a little bit destructive. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so corporate culture is a set of values and behavioral patterns exhibited by, mute your mic please, exhibited by individuals within a corporate structure. The analysis of corporate in-house may not reveal the idiosyncrasies of the units within the structure, but will assuredly reveal the core values and the relationship between the employees and the coordination nexus between the units. So corporate work culture is an intangible asset of an organization that can be designed, tailored, and upgraded strategically from time to time. See, it is not just that you devise a plan and then after that you execute it and then you forget about it. It's not so, okay? But it is something that is the evolving need of any organization. You know, it has to be strategically upgraded from time to time with the evolving needs and goals of the organization. So the healthier the corporate culture, the better is the achievement of goals and targets. So what is needed is the establishment, development, and improvement of strategic work culture within the organization. That is planning. You plan the work culture as well. You plan, you study, you analyze the work culture within your organization and see what's going wrong, see the positivity, see the negativities, and try to root out the negativities from within the organization strategically, and help the employees to strategically grow and encourage them to have a healthy work relationship with their colleagues and so on. Now, what is needed, I'm reiterating, is establishment and development and improvement of strategic work culture within the organization, which operates as a lever. You know what's lever, right? Lever is something you pull and it propels further. It operates like a lever to propel the organization towards achieving the much sought competitive edge. Mute your mic, please. With unified efforts. Mute your mic, please. So, February, towards achieving the much sought competitive edge with unified efforts of the workforce within the structure. Many organizations, oblivious that good work culture has the propensity to propel the organization to the next level. It's level there. There is an error on the slide. It is level. Many organizations oblivious, that means forgetful, that a good work culture has the propensity, that means the kind of capability to propel or to push the organization to the next level. They turn deaf ears and blind eyes to the cold culture that has inevitably developed within the structure due to lack of supervision. Mute your mic, please. You're disturbing the class. Thank you. Okay, where was I? Okay, so I'm repeating this again. Many organizations, see, this is my experience actually as well, that organizations as a whole, when they are forgetful, they forget that they just have the goal of, okay, profit making, having a stand at the stock market, and how am I going to come out of the debts of the company? Company debts have to be resolved, and making profits, gaining competitive edge. But what they do is they are forgetful about, even concentrating on the work culture of any organization. They forget that it has the propensity, the capability, the fire within that to propel the organization or to push the organization to the next level. And what they do is they turn deaf ears and blind eyes even to the cold culture that has inevitably developed within the structure due to lack of supervision or timely strategic advice and training. This is again my practical experience. Sometimes this happens, and I have seen how companies sometimes oblivious of such important factor among the employees, that there is sometimes a kind of a cold animosity between them. Sometimes there is not a good behavioral pattern between, equal level of employees, like executive, or even between executive and a manager, or even managers of two different departments, you see. So therefore, a good, corporate structure, the right person there, so the human resource manager, or the head of human resources, if they kind of, find out there is a kind of a cold culture within the organization, they'll have to, in a timely manner, strategize a plan and rectify that kind of problems that are existing within the organization. Or even if there's a high management, or if there's a group level management, if they try to find out, or they have to issue instructions to the HR department saying that try to, monitoring is needed here, monitor the culture within the organizations. Don't allow any kind of a cold attitude or bad behavior within the organization. What they do is bad behavior definition, they've just given to it as where somebody directly misbehaves with someone, or they use of bad words. But for a good corporate culture, it is something beyond that. Of course, bad behavior, use of bad words, or even engaging in a kind of assault or a battery, legally speaking, or even not performing the task that is assigned by the manager. All this calls for, of course, calls for there is a legal way of making tight the situation. But that is not the only way. That is not the only way you reprimand an employee. But you need to strategize that such thing, even the other things, like even cold behavior, or learning to or understand that the work of one manager is different from the work of the other departmental manager. So basically understand that every department in the organization, it works towards one goal towards the best of the company, and every department within the organization needs to peacefully coexist, and each head of department should work peacefully and powerfully within their department, and rely on the knowledge and the wisdom of the other head of department, and not trespass the rights or the duties of the other department. I understand. So these are all practical aspects that happen. And when such things happen, it disturbs the corporate culture. See, theoretically speaking, we will just say there is a need of a good leadership, and that leadership normally drives values. There has to be good value system. Now that value system actually points out towards the behavioral pattern of the employees. Now this behavioral pattern actually goes to develop the culture. It's very sweet and very beautiful, and it's good analysis. This is theory. But what about the practical aspect of it? Are you understanding me? So the organization, the right heads there, and anyone and everyone there, when they find out there is something going wrong in the culture, immediately it has to be rectified, and don't just keep it only for the human resource department to handle it. And just turning a blind eye and turning deaf ears, that wouldn't really work. So the higher management sometimes may view the work culture that is developed within the company as ancillary, that is a part of it to business progress, and they lunge it across to the HR department, that is swing it across to the HR department to magically iron the creases of the involuntary besmirched work culture or blunt work culture. Now, this is something that is really practical, and that what I have really experienced it in my career. This is what I have observed actually. So now Harvard Business Review, it says in the leadership guide to corporate culture, I want you to, even quote this, even for your exams, because it's important. Harvard Business Review, the leader's guide to corporate culture magazine, Jan-Feb 2018, and the authors were Grossberg, Lee, Price and Sheng, 2018. Now they define just culture, a simple word culture, as the tacit social order of an organization. It shapes the attitudes and behaviors in wide-ranging and durable ways. Cultural norms define what is encouraged, discouraged, accepted, or rejected within a group. When properly aligned with personal values, drives and needs, culture can unleash tremendous amount of energy towards a shared purpose and foster an organization's capacity to thrive. So even they are talking about sustenance, thriving, sustaining themselves in the market. So they're saying it has to be aligned with even personal values, and that fosters the organization's capacity to thrive or to sustain. In case we get disconnected, please join back. I think it might take 10 minutes according to this. Anyway, and they've defined organization culture as the collective effect of the common beliefs, behaviors, and values of the people within a company. So those norms within any organization regulate how employees perform and serve customers, how they cooperate with each other, whether they feel motivated to meet the goals. That is, a bad culture would normally demotivate an employee. So the question also is whether it motivates the employees. Having a good, healthy environment, a healthy culture within the organization, where there is equal respect for everyone, everyone knows what they are doing, everyone knows that we are going towards a common goal, cutting out the jealousy, cutting up the crab policy of going sideways and disrupting the work of some other department. So all these things should be actually tailored out and cut off. What is not right, it should be nipped in the bud, and check whether, have constant checks within the organization. What is the culture, whether it's motivating the employees to meet the goals, and if they are sincerely into the company's overall mission. Check whether your employees are seriously taking the mission, or the goals that you have actually devised for the company that to achieve it. For example, mostly companies or even the countries, basically, they have 2030 goal, 2020 goals. You understand? So even companies have that. So how are the employees getting their work done? Independently or collaboratively? Do employees feel inspired, committed, engaged, annoyed, overworked? Annoyed is angry, overworked. It's like too much overwork. And whether it is underappreciated, whether there is no appreciation directly, because these things also happen where your work is not appreciated. Even if you don't appreciate, it's fine. But once in a while, employees need to be motivated, saying that good, any human being for that matter, good, well done, good job. So these are some of the ways a good leader in an organization, a good manager, should be able to really instill that kind of confidence in their employees. So corporate culture therefore refers to values as per Cotter and Heskett. Cotter and Heskett in 1992, they've said that corporate culture refers to values and practices shared across all groups in an organization, at least within senior management. So this is what they have given definition. They have tried to confine themselves to senior management and not mid-level management. Rightly, when the work culture within the organization is aligned with the amalgamation of corporate and ethical values. So this is how you have to word it. I believe that with my explanation, you already understood by now what is the significance of having a healthy work culture within the organization. I spoke, what happens practically. Now you'll have to write this down theoretically. You have to word it theoretically. And so this is how you write it. Rightly, when the work culture within the organization is aligned with the amalgamation, that is the unity or amalgamation or the marriage of corporate and ethical values. Corporate values and one. What are corporate values? Can you give me one corporate value? Working with integrity is a corporate value. Working with integrity, corporate value. Not stealing information, corporate value. Are you understanding? Ethical values. You work with corporate value, work with ethical value, and that fosters the organization's capacity to sustain and achieve unified success. That is, together they achieve success. So culture is normally developed within the group of people. Are you understanding? That is a culture. Behavior could be at an individual level. Value can be at an individual level. Collectively, that shows the behavioral pattern. The value that I have in me will show when I am with a group of people. If I'm alone, how would you know what are my values? When I start interacting, when I start performing my duties, or when I'm interacting within a family or a community or a church or society or my work spot or wherever I go, even to the shopping mall or to the market, even to a small supermarket or to a small shop, wherever I go, it's important that I remember my values in my mind. Good behavior, thanking someone, not interfering with somebody else's personal lives. These are all values where you respect the other person, you respect the other person's views, you allow them also to grow. So these things. So likewise in the corporate culture, you will see the how an individual behaves or how the group of employees behave, and that what is their value system within the organization. Because why value system plays a role is, for example, I will tell you again with practical experience. Now, sometimes it just happens that when you get a better job, you switch to a new job, you resign from a previous job, from one job, and you switch to a new job. So when you go to the new place, you will see that just as when you go to your example to your cousin's place, so their way is something a little bit different from your household, for example. So when you go to a new, just giving a kind of a lame example, okay, just so that you may understand. So when you go to a new company, so their values will be different. It doesn't matter whether it's a huge company, small company. So people normally push it up. No, this is a small company. Okay, this is a medium-sized company. Well, this is a large organization. So large organization normally think about the work culture, but what about the small organization? Values are for everyone. Corporate values have to be abided by every individual within the organization. And when every individual abides by that, collectively it becomes the organization behavioral pattern. It sets up a culture. This culture actually gives you a kind of an environment which encourages the person to perform their best. When they perform their best, it increases the organization's capacity to achieve their targets together, achieve together unified success. They achieve unified success in the in the market, unified success, and they able to achieve the targets, their profits, competitive edge, able to sustain, and so on. So Harvard Business Review has, with the synthesis of seminal work by Edgar Schein, Shalom Schwartz, Gert Hofstede, and other leading scholars, identified 4 generally accepted attributes, that is the characteristics of a good work culture. So according to Harvard Business Review and these authors who put their minds together, they came up with 4 aspects, they said, that has to be reflected in a good corporate culture, that you can see in a good corporate culture. What are the characteristic features? What are the attributes? They said that a good corporate culture should have sharing. You should be able to see sharing within the organization. They share with each other. Culture is a group phenomena, so sharing. Next is there is something. It should be pervasive. Pervasive means it should be able to permeate, that is seep through. Permeate is to seep through. So it should be porous enough, that is where they should be open enough to each other. They should welcome each other. So it should be a pervasive, there should be a pervasive route, as culture normally permeates various levels within the organization. What are the levels in an organization? You have the officer level, the executive level, the manager level, the mid-manager level, the higher management level, the top management level, director level, and so on. It can be a manager, assistant manager, or it could be for example, you say accounts department, accounts executive. You're going to have an accounts officer, then you have an accounts executive, then you have an assistant accounts manager, then you have an accounts manager, then you might have a senior accounts manager, or you might have a group accounts manager, or you might have a group heading the finance department of all the companies within that particular group. Or depending upon the size of the company, you might just have as the head of department, head of finance department. Are you understanding? It depends. Or sometimes they give the position of director of finance. It depends upon what is the structure within the organization. So it seeps through every level of the organization. It is not just confined to the root level or to the officer. This culture is something that permeates through every level. Again, giving you an example, keeping this corporate aside so that you may be able to understand the value of your household. It is coming from your grandparents to parents to the children to the grandchildren. Am I right? So that's how it permeates how your parents behave, what they have taught you. It comes even in the child. The child grows like that and goes out, and then the child teaches her child. So this is how it permeates. It's pervasive in nature. So a good work culture, as Harvard Business Review says, it should have the element of sharing and